Hey there. Tonight, we're entering a different kind of tale. Not one of shining legends, but of the colder, heavier truth that hides beneath the armor. There are no dragons here, no flawless champions, just a life shaped by duty, fear, bruises, and the exhausting rhythm of survival. Steel against steel, nights of broken sleep, and the slow fading of glory. If this sort of story helps calm your mind, you're welcome to like the video and subscribe, but only if it truly brings you some peace. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is. Right now, it's strangely comforting to picture others drifting off alongside the same steady march through history. So, dim the lights. Let the fire in your imagination flicker against stone walls. Get comfortable, and let's begin with the making of a knight. It all starts when you are just 7 years old, not with a gleaming sword, but with a farewell. Your parents, proud, maybe even a little relieved, send you off to serve in the household of a noble. No keepsakes, no ink-written farewells, just a quick pat on the shoulder, a bundle of clothes, and the unspoken weight of expectation pressing down on your still growing frame. No one asks if you're ready. Truth is, it doesn't matter. Ready or not, you're a page now. The castle rises before you, gray stone towers reaching into the clouds. From a distance, it promises greatness. Up close, it promises work and hardship. The gates creak open. What lies beyond isn't honor or glory. It's chores, endless chores, scrubbing, serving, hauling. Chivalry comes later. For now, your days are filled with fetching, carrying, and cleaning up after knights and their horses. From sunrise until long after dark, your work never ends. You sweep halls, deliver messages, help in the kitchens, and when fortune smiles, you polish armor, though polishing is hardly noble, scraping dried mud and horse-dung off iron boots leaves your hands blistered and your back aching. The knights barely notice you. You're not one of them. You're the help. But even in these early years, training begins. Wooden swords are handed out as often as brooms, and bruises blossom across your arms as you spar with other boys, desperate to prove themselves. You're taught how to fall from a horse without shattering your bones, and you fall often. Some days, falling feels like the real lesson. No one praises you for it, but they scold you quickly if you show weakness. Pain isn't to be displayed, it's to be swallowed. Discipline is everything. Speak only when spoken to. Bow deeply to those above you. Never question an order, no matter how petty or humiliating. Mistakes are punished swiftly, a slap or a week spent scrubbing chamber pots. One boy forgets to remove his cap in front of the lady of the house. He spends 2 days on his knees in the chapel praying for humility. No one forgets again. If your family has wealth, you may have a tutor to teach you reading, writing, and some Latin. Mostly, though, Latin only helps during church or when reading words carved on tombs. If you're less fortunate, you learn by imitation. You listen, you memorize prayers, you copy letters on scraps of parchment when the steward is generous enough to spare them. Literacy is rare. Strength and obedience matter far more. Still, you absorb what you can. You learn which fork to use at table, though most still eat with their hands. You learn quickly how to blend into the background. At grand feasts, you stand for hours, holding heavy platters of steaming meat, while nobles argue over politics and complain about the wine. You train yourself to stay invisible when tempers flare, and to vanish altogether When drunken knights start bragging about their past battles, every moment is a lesson in survival. Each morning begins in the chapel. The air inside is always cold, no matter the season, and your breath clouds in the dim light as you kneel on the hard stone floor, fighting off sleep, while the priest recites the liturgy. Religion isn't a choice here. It's as much a part of your training as sword drills. You're taught to fear hell, to revere the church, to confess your sins often. The sermons are filled with talk of holy duty and divine purpose, and you nod along, though in truth, your most earnest prayers are for good health. Illness has few cures, and fewer survivors. Meals are brief and plain, bread and cheese most days, a bit of meat if fortune smiles on you. Vegetables are considered dangerous. Many believe raw greens cause sickness. So you grow used to salted meats, hard crusts, and water. On rare feast days, there might be roast pig or sweet oat cakes drizzled with honey. Those meals linger in memory for years, like warm dreams glimpsed through smoke. Evenings bring a shift in mood. The great hall fills with music and stories. Minstrels sing of Arthur, of Roland, of saints who faced dragons with nothing but faith and steel. You sit close to the fire, straining to catch each word. The songs are meant to stir the spirit, but your body is too weary to care. Your sore feet distract you more than tales of valor. And yet, somewhere deep inside, the words plant a seed. Hope that one day perhaps someone might sing of you. Sleep comes where it can, usually in the servants' quarters, shoulder to shoulder with other boys, on straw pallets that smell of sweat and mildew. Some nights, you're shaken awake to help with late arrivals or unexpected guests. You learn to rise without complaint, to mask exhaustion, to work through the fog of fatigue. A knight must be ready at all hours, and that training starts now. You're not alone in this. The other pages suffer the same hardships. Silent friendships form through shared glances, whispered complaints, and stolen moments of laughter. Together you learn the rhythm of castle life, which knights to avoid, which ones might show mercy, and which corners of the keep offer a rare breath of peace. There are moments of lightness too, a cook's offhand joke, a knight stumbling over a hound, a stolen apple savored in secret. You cling to those sparks of joy. They remind you that life is more than duty, that laughter still exists, even here. Every so often, you catch glimpses of the wider world, merchants arriving with silks and spices, traveling performers with painted faces, a noble woman riding past with her entourage. These sights feel distant, like fragments of a story you're not yet part of. But maybe one day, doubt creeps in at times. The glory you've been promised feels far away, buried beneath aching limbs, hunger, and endless scoldings. You wonder if this path truly leads to honor. But then, a knight rides out through the gates, armor polished, pennant snapping in the wind, and your chest tightens. For a moment, you believe, perhaps one day, that could be you. And so, the lessons in humility continue, not just through bruises and hunger, but through the endless ceremonies where you stand silent, barely more than a shadow. In the background, you watch the nobles parade through the halls, their clothes spun from silks and velvets you wouldn't dare touch, let alone wear. Their eyes remind you of your place, useful when needed, invisible otherwise. When foreign dignitaries arrive, the castle turns into a stage. You scrub guest chambers, polish silver until your reflection gleams back, sweep the same stone floors, again and again. If anything looks out of order, the blame falls on the pages. And if disaster strikes, say, a bishop's leg is mauled by a hound, you learn quickly the survival skill of being busy somewhere else. On festival days, music spills into every corridor. Nobles whirl and dance. Goblets overflow with wine. You and the other boys linger at the edges, careful not to stare too long. Sometimes a kind soul slips you a candied treat or a slice of cake, and for a fleeting moment, your burdens feel lighter. But such gestures, rare as they are, don't change the truth. Your place is to serve, to observe, to remember. Some find escape in books, if they're lucky enough to read. The steward's chamber houses a handful of precious manuscripts, bound in leather and guarded like treasures. On rare evenings, you sit by the fire while a scribe reads aloud stories of Roman generals or saints who endured unthinkable trials. These tales feed the imagination, even as your body aches from the day's labor. Not all lessons come from books. Older servants whisper warnings, cautionary tales of boys who faltered under the strain. Some were sent home in shame. Others simply disappeared, never spoken of again. You overhear things you were never meant to know, and so you master silence. When to speak, when to nod, when to bow your head. The castle is no longer just a home. It is a forge. Each passing hour shapes you into something sharper, harder, less fragile. You are not yet a knight, but neither are you the child who first arrived. You are caught between, disciplined, battered, yet quietly resolute. At night, staring at the beams above your straw mattress, your thoughts turn to what lies ahead, the next trial, the next transformation, the next step toward knighthood. If fortune, your lord, and your body all hold steady, for now, though, you remain a page, and that is enough. But time moves swiftly. At 14, your life shifts again. The ceremony that ends your pagehood is brief, stripped of kindness or softness. You are now a squire. The title sounds noble, but in truth, it carries more bruises than blessings. Gone are the small kindnesses of kitchen scraps and honeyed cakes. In their place comes heavier labor, far greater demands. Your duties change. You no longer serve the castle as a whole. You now belong to a knight. You are his shadow, his attendant, his lifeline. You fetch his armor, care for his weapons, tend his horse, and when the call to battle comes, you ride at his side. If he falls, it is you who must charge into chaos and drag him to safety, risking your life without hesitation. Your training intensifies. Every drill, every lesson, every command now carries the weight of survival. Riding a warhorse, for example, is nothing like the graceful image you once imagined as a boy. It is raw, violent power beneath you. An animal bred for war, not comfort. The warhorses are massive, bred for strength and battle, and often more difficult to manage than the lords who ride them. Just mounting one feels like a skirmish. Keeping control is an endless negotiation between your will and the beast's temper. Your thighs burn, your spine rattles with each stride, and your backside hasn't felt normal in months. Sword training grows harsher. The wooden sticks of childhood are gone. Now, you hold steel, not meant to kill, but sharp enough that a slip of focus or a well-rested opponent can draw blood. Sparring is daily, relentless. Your skin is a map of bruises, new welts blooming before old ones fade. Every swing teaches you humility. Land a blow, and you'll take 3 in return. Your knight doesn't look for elegance. He demands endurance. The most grueling work, though, isn't the fighting. It's the care of equipment. You come to realize armor is more than steel plates. It's practically alive. Sweat seeps into the joints. Grime cakes the edges. Even the occasional slug finds its way inside. Every hinge, every strap, every buckle must be perfect. If the greaves pinch mid-battle, or the visor jams, that's your fault. And if your knight dies because you overlooked a crack in his gear, you'll wish you had died with him. Weapons need sharpening every day, lances tested, shields checked for splinters and fractures. No one thanks you when things go right, but the moment something fails, all eyes turn to you, and come the tournaments. Once, as a page, you thought them glorious. Trumpets, banners, maidens cheering. Now, you know the truth. Blunted swords still break bones. Your work is saddling the horse, carrying the lances, wiping blood from your knight's face, so he can grin for the crowd. If he wins, you haul the prize money. If he loses, you haul him. Broken ribs and shattered pride included. And then, real war arrives. Mud, rain, endless marching. Food is scarce. Sleep even more so. If you're lucky enough to wear armor, it chafes in places you never knew existed. Exhaustion stops being a word and becomes a constant state. You move because there is no choice. Battle itself is nothing like the songs. It is chaos. Shouts lost in the wind. Steel on steel, bodies crashing. The reek of sweat and blood, thick in your throat. And the silence, the sudden absolute silence. When a man dies beside you, becomes another teacher. You learn to tell the difference between fear that sharpens your senses and fear that freezes you. And you pray that the first kind always wins. You're not meant to fight, not yet. But that doesn't mean safety. If your knight is knocked from his horse, it's your duty to reach him, to haul him in full armor, heavier than a feast table, across mud, while arrows hiss from above. It's not noble, it's not romantic, it's back-breaking, and your reward is often just the chance to do it again tomorrow. When your knight is wounded, you bind his cuts. When he's taken prisoner, you're sent to bargain for his release, or carry messages through dangerous territory. Sometimes, this means facing men who would gladly see him rot. You learn diplomacy, not from a tutor, but from survival itself. Every word, every gesture, even your silence, must be chosen with care. And yet, through the bruises, the grime, the exhaustion, there are moments, brief, fleeting, when you feel pride. There are moments, small, stolen seconds, that make it all feel worth it. When you lead your knight's destrier into camp, and heads turn, when he gives you a curt nod after a brutal day, and is still breathing. Those glints of recognition are like sunlight through narrow arrow slits. They're brief, but they matter. They keep you moving. Back at the keep, the routine never stops. You train the new pages, passing on the bitter lessons you learned by trial. You serve at banquets, help organize hunts, and stand at your knight's side whenever important guests arrive. Your sword is scuffed, your boots split at the seams, and you carry yourself like a man who has seen twice your years. You are no longer simply help. People are watching you now, measuring you, judging your worth. The priests expect your prayers, your Lord expects your loyalty, and your body expects a rest that almost never comes. There is no turning back. The only way forward is through. You start to imagine your own heraldry. What colors will your shield bear? What symbol will claim your name? You dream of the dubbing, the weight of the sword on your shoulders, the moment you rise, not as a squire, but as a knight. It seems impossibly distant, and at the same time somehow unavoidable. Then come the terrible days, the ones where a fellow squire is crushed under a panicked warhorse, or skewered by a lance that looks dull enough to be safe. There are no laments for squires. No ballads memorialize the boys who almost made it. You learn to carry your grief without display, to keep working while the ground trembles under your feet. If fortune favors you, your knight teaches more than how to bleed and parry. A good man shows you how to think, how to read a man's character, how to judge a battlefield, how to lead others. He teaches the subtler arts, when to speak, when to hold silence, which fights are worth taking, and how to lose with dignity. Armor won't teach you those things, but they're as essential as any sword. Winter tests you in new ways. A sword is useless if your fingers are numb and cracked. Buckling armor in the cold becomes a daily battle, the metal biting like ice against your skin. The training yard freezes into a sheet of treacherous mud. Horses lose their footing, and so do you. No one cares how you feel. The weather, like war, has no mercy. Among the older squires, there's talk, whispers of glory, of unrest in the east, of a royal summons. You listen and weigh it all. You've seen enough to know that glory often ends at the edge of a grave, and yet, if the call came tomorrow, you would ride. Waiting is often the cruelest part. You write your first letter home, awkward, stiff, formal. You don't know where to send it or even what to tell them, but the act of writing grounds you. It proves you are still somebody beneath the sweat and wounds. One night, after a feast, your knight, half drunk on wine and memory, recounts his first campaign, the rain, the hunger, the savage joy of surviving a charge. Then his voice goes quiet. He stares long into the fire and names 3 men who never came back. You say nothing. You listen. You remember. You practice constantly. Sometimes when no one is watching, you mirror his stance, his steps, the tilt of his blade before a strike, hoping that copying will turn into reflex. You bleed. You hobble. You learn. And then, one morning, without ceremony or warning, your name is spoken. You are to ride with your knight, not as a bystander, but as his second. Sleep doesn't come the night before, though you hardly need it. By dawn, as you mount your horse, you are not perfect, not fearless, but ready. Your story is still unfolding, yet already it is etched into steel, into the dirt of countless roads, into the calluses on your palms. You are no longer a boy, not quite a man, but closer than ever, a squire on the edge of becoming something more. You're 21, give or take. Some are knighted younger, others later. The number hardly matters. What matters is that someone with authority has decided the time has come. You are ready to kneel, to swear, to fight, and if called upon, to die. This time, with ceremony, to mark the weight of it. There is no magical change. You don't wake with a deeper voice or a stronger jaw. You're still sore from yesterday's training, still wearing boots crusted with mud, still carrying that stubborn scar across your shoulder, but everything, every bruise, every blister, every long night spent sharpening steel or carrying burdens has led you here, to this day, to your knighting. It begins not with glory, but with solitude. You are given a bare chamber to spend the night in prayer and fasting. The walls are stone, the air chill, the single candle flickering weakly against the dark. A coarse blanket is your only comfort, thin, scratchy. Kneeling, your bones ache. Your stomach growls, and your thoughts wander to the warmth of the kitchens below, to the smell of roasting meat you can't taste. This vigil is meant to cleanse your spirit, to prepare you for the sacred vows of knighthood. You are expected to meditate on your duties, to shield the weak, to serve your Lord, to honor the church. In truth, you also wrestle with smaller temptations, whether you can sneak a sip of water or rest your legs for 5 blessed minutes. You are not the first to endure this, nor will you be the last. Many squires have kept this watch before you, some shaking with nerves, others masking fear with forced calm. You wonder which one you are. You recite prayers, creeds, rules of posture, trying to steady yourself. And you try not to think about the whispered stories of squires feigning mid-ceremony or retching from nerves at the altar. You'd rather not be remembered that way. At dawn, you are led into the great hall. It has been remade for the occasion. Banners unfurled, candles glowing, nobles and priests gathered in their finery. A hush falls as you step forward. Your name is called. You kneel. Your lord, perhaps even the king, depending on your station, approaches. In his hands is a sword, the emblem of service and power. It may not be his battlefield blade. Many lords keep a ceremonial weapon, polished to perfection, gleaming, untarnished by war. You keep your eyes forward. You try not to tremble. The blade touches one shoulder, then the other. The dubbing. In some traditions, a sharp slap follows, a symbolic strike, reminding you that pain, both physical and moral, must be borne without complaint. Whether it is a sting or just a firm pat, the message is the same. Knighthood is not about comfort. It is about sacrifice. Then comes the oath. You speak the words with deliberate weight, vowing loyalty to your liege, to God, and to the ideals of knighthood. You pledge to shield the weak, honor women, speak truth, and fight with integrity. You repeat the promises with as much solemnity as you can gather, though quietly you wonder how many knights still live by them. When the oath is finished, you rise, no longer a boy, no longer just a servant. You rise as a knight. The change is not outward, but inward, subtle yet undeniable. Those who scarcely noticed you yesterday now give approving nods. Fellow knights clap your shoulder. Your lord grants you the tightest of smiles, which, in noble circles, carries the weight of thunderous applause. There may be a feast afterward, depending on your lord's wealth or the court's mood. If there is, you sit higher at the table, drink from a finer cup, and receive congratulations from nobles you once served wine to. Some squires are knighted on muddy battlefields, their ceremony improvised amidst the chaos of war. Others, like you, receive full pageantry. Either way, the title lands on your shoulders. Heavy as chainmail. Knighthood, you learn quickly, is not the end of the journey, but the beginning of a heavier one. The world does not pause, so you can bask in your new title. Responsibilities expand immediately. Now you are expected to lead, not follow, to make decisions, not just obey, to ride at the front, not trail at the back. The very sword that taps your shoulders is now yours to wield. And no one will second-guess your choices. If you falter, the mistake will be public, and the cost high. Accountability, too, grows sharper. A knight's word binds him. His signature carries authority. His absence at court is noted. His presence at church assumed. Drink too much, speak too freely. And it is not only your name you tarnish. It is your household, your banner, your liege. One careless phrase can fray an alliance. One brawl can undo months of diplomacy. From the moment steel touched your shoulders, your margin for error vanished, and battle is not the only arena. If your lord grants you land, you're also an administrator. You must collect taxes, resolve disputes, keep the roads sound, and see to harvests. Knights may be imagined as warriors above all, but in truth, they are landlords, magistrates, overseers. Your blade may sit sheathed for months at a time, but your seal presses into wax near daily. You also now gain a squire of your own. The irony is unmistakable. He is young, nervous, eager, clumsy. You teach him how to polish armor correctly, to saddle a horse without bruising its flanks, to pour wine with a steady hand. At first, you correct him gently, then more firmly. He mirrors the boy you once were. The sight humbles you and makes you smile, because it shows both how far you've come and how much you still must learn. Then comes the matter of your coat of arms. If you had none before, it must now be chosen. Colors, shapes, symbols, mottos, they matter more than you realize. They announce you in court. They mark you on the battlefield. They speak before you do. A golden field with a red lion proclaims one kind of man. A white bend with a black cross declares another. Choose carefully, or pay a herald to guide you. Lastly, the armor, custom made, fitted precisely to your frame. If your lord is generous, or your family still has coin to spend, full plate is ruinously expensive, and every piece must be tailored. To wear it is not only protection, it is a statement. Greaves are strapped to your legs, gauntlets tightened over your hands, and a cuirass fitted snug against your chest. You stand motionless while the blacksmiths measure and adjust, their soot-stained fingers leaving smudges on your skin. The weight is immense. Every step feels like relearning how to move. Yet inside the steel, you feel shielded, as though the armor protects not just your body, but the honor tied to your name. Your first ceremonial ride through the village is unlike anything before. No longer a servant trailing at the rear of a procession, you ride at its head. Children scamper to the roadside, old men bow stiffly, and a woman tosses a flower in your path. You try to hide the flicker of pride on your face. The villagers don't exactly cheer, but they watch. And in this age, a lingering gaze is its own kind of tribute. That night, alone in your chamber, you unbuckle each piece carefully, one by one. The sword is laid down with deliberate care. You study your reflection in the polished steel, searching for what others seemed to see earlier that day. A knight, a guardian, a leader. You don't fully believe it yet, but in time, you will. For all the ceremony, not everything shifts overnight. You still rise before dawn. You still train, still pray, still wince when a blade bruises your elbow or a long ride leaves you limping. But there is a difference now. When your name is spoken, it carries more weight. You are no longer simply given orders. You're asked, consulted, and heard. And so, the boy who once carried trays and polished boots now carries steel and commands respect. The road to knighthood was never paved with glory alone. It was lined with bruises, with hunger, with sleepless nights, and with lessons carved deep into flesh and spirit. But that's what makes the transformation real, because a knight isn't made in a single ceremony or by the weight of a sword on his shoulder. The knight is forged in silence, in service, in every moment when giving up would have been easier, but wasn't. And now, standing in armor that feels both heavy and holy, you realize the truth. This isn't the end. of your journey. It's only the beginning. So tell me, if it were you, would you endure the trials, the scars, the sacrifice, for the chance to rise as a knight